back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. I love these segments the most because this is one of the ones where I get up nice and early in the morning to do, no matter when you're listening. It is all brought to you by our friends at Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy, the Rofo in my cup. And I get days off to start. Every week, I don't have many things that are set pieces, but every week, on Wednesday, I usually wake up with Bill Cole from Cole Roofing, and usually we don't green room. It's the antithesis of a Don Moeller segment, Billy. Don would send me 58 pages of notes that I will ignore, not stick to at all. He'll wonder why I didn't stick to it, and I'll say, there's no script here. With you and I, it's just sort of more back and forth, but the last time we got together, we had sort of ridden last rights over the Ravens, but now that it's actually happened, and we're here, we are into the off season now. Now nothing's going to happen. I'm going to be in my pajamas, if not sweatpants, for weeks on end. I'm not going to any Caribbean. I'm probably not going to the Super Bowl. I'm certainly not doing a bus trip to Buffalo or Foxborough or something you and your kids might be interested in. So it is a little bit of the blahs in January when the Ravens don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. Some people might debate whether we should set a script because might make for more productive conversations.
Not at all.
I think
I've been doing this 30 years without a rope, man. It's like this is the way to do it.
I get it. I think everyone had that little gnawing feeling inside that the Ravens weren't as good as their record indicated, and I think
I never thought they were winning the Super Bowl, by the way.
Right.
Like, there was never a moment when they were 8-3 or whatever where I thought, because I don't know that I believe in Lamar Jackson. Like, I'll say that out loud. I don't know that I really believe in this as a long-term winning strategy. First 5 years, they've kept them mainly healthy. But I think this notion of a guy running into linebackers, I've given that a new name. You ready? Original sin. It's the original sin, having a quarterback that runs into linebackers. To me, I just don't think that's bueno for 21 weeks in the National Football League. I don't think it's sustainable.
I don't know. I think we're going to try really hard to break that rule.
And they'll give him $250 million, and they'll keep him around. I'm not saying they shouldn't get rid of him. I'm just saying I don't know at any point that I really believe that he's going to stay healthy enough. That's my. And he's getting older now. And I don't say 25's old. I'm not trying to be ridiculous here. And I'm not trying to talk both sides, of my mouth in this. I just think they signed up for it. And now the minute anything goes wrong, as we witnessed in the year, he's got to go run the ball 21 times.
Right.
And that's his instinct.
I think that you're not allowed to make the playoffs if you lose, a really good corner and your left tackle. Forget all of the other things like. If you just lose those two things, you probably shouldn't make the playoffs. And I think if your result, like you say, if your go-to is we're going to run the ball with our quarterback as our primary weapon that the other team cannot prepare for, that does seem like an awfully fragile game plan.
Well, that was the game plan 2 years ago.
Sure,
Make no mistake about it. When they were 14-2, that's what they did. And Luke and I have been, whining a little bit about that. Like the old Peyton Manning year, the old 2006 year, the one that got away. Billick never got an opportunity after that, right? Billick got fired the year after that. So in this particular case, I think we're looking back on that Marshall Yanda year and 14-2 and the slobber knockers and saying that was your window there. Everybody was healthy. Everybody was together. I think you shouldn't have lost that playoff game, period.
But the plan was fragile enough that was it the Chargers that came in and beat us?
Correct.
Yeah.
No, Chargers and then the Titans.
Right.
It was Chargers and the Titans was that.
Right.
Year.
The Chargers were the ones that showed everybody, well, just take your safeties and play them at linebacker, and then you'll be fine. And we'll push everybody up in the box. And they showed and that was it. No, no change, whatever. But I don't know. I mean, it was a weird year. It was entertaining. They were in the games. I think that's kind of, as a fan, that's like, I don't know. That seems like something you say in Cleveland, not in Baltimore. Like, well, we were in every game, even though we don't make the playoffs.
Oh, I think it was a highly entertaining season. I mean, as far as weekends to put aside, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock, wait till Monday night, lose games in the middle of the night in Las Vegas, and then have the coach not not acknowledge the press conference. And how about these press conferences? Can I ask you, because you're like, it's different than talking to Moeller about it because he's deluded. In the case of fans watching press conferences, have you just gotten to the point where it's a waste of your time too? I mean,
Oh,
I'm literally like, I am the
yeah,
media member now that's getting to the point where it's too much trouble to go through to have you sit there and lie to me and be and blame me and yell at me and be
yeah,
rude to me. Like it's too much to get on a plane to go through Albuquerque to get to Las Vegas to have the team win and then have the coach not want to say anything.
yeah. I mean, in our case, especially this year and probably last year, but like with the COVID stuff and the injuries and all that, like I would rather have the GM lie to us. Like I understand they're all going to lie, right? Because they have to play poker. But
They can't say what Lamar's real injury is. They have to make something up.
yeah, I get all that, but like the
Well, now that we're gambling
complex.
on it, I don't know that that's even like
Oh yeah,
that's even more of a game now
yeah,
that
yeah,
we're the one charged with going in and getting the truth out of the coach for the Vegas odds so that MGM could put a local bet together here, right? Like I just I've played sleuth for 35 years. I'm good at calling bullshit on bullshit all the time. I know when he's lying.
right.
You can see his eyes shift when it comes to John Harbaugh. Like he's an awful poker player when it comes to when he's lying and when he's not. He doesn't sell it well, to be honest
Right.
with you. But to be one of three people left to try to go and get that out of the I'm going to ask the public over the next 8 months the value of me chasing a coach, and because you can't chase the players around anymore. I mean, Hollywood Brown
Yeah.
drops 3 balls. He just doesn't show up for the press conference. Or they show up and it's a WWE. Here to talk about
Right.
next year. That's it. And they walk
No,
off the set. And I'm like, all right, man. Like, come
I
on.
don't think anybody cares about that. I mean, I'm more interested in the ebb and the flow of like the city after wins and losses, like after a win, my drive on 95 is much more pleasant. Like people let you merge more often. Like the whole spirit
Well, when
after a
half the fans
W
are
is
Steelers fans,
different than a loss.
half of them left happy last week
Oh,
anyway,
I
right?
knew that. I knew that was happening. Like that, you could see that on the right. I mean, rainy, cold, not really with a playoff chance. Like we already have to do hand-to-hand combat to keep the stadium from being yellow. So I don't know. I kind of
I
saw
played
that one
that game
coming.
20 years ago by buying tickets and having my co-roofing friends sit up in section 513 and handling money and being a ticket broker and being ticket
Yeah.
master, Ticketron, and ticket Ness all at the same time. Bill Cole is here. He is Cole Roofing and Gordy Energy. I got a little extra pep in my step today in my Rofo coffee as we approach the off season here and the sports side of things and then the real life side of things. So the real life side of things, I'm moving next week. They say what other than like deaths of spouses and dear relatives and like divorces, moving is the next thing on the losing your jobs right up there, right? Um, I'm not as stressed about that, but I am. I'm interested in how life will be different waking up in a new place because I've been in the same place for so long, right? Like not just hotel rooms or whatever, or moving around or spending a week at the beach, but it's been a long, long time since I haven't lived downtown, and I know a lot of you are worried about me not being able to walk to a bar.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about you. I think it'll be a fun transition for you. I mean, it certainly does. I'm trying to think of all the times I moved and how upsetting to your life. I mean, that's the thing that we're all better at now after 22 months of this pandemic is like every time you get to a routine, it changes. Every time you think you're in a rhythm, it changes. So we are much more calloused towards this disruption in our lives. And it's the same thing. Yeah, you went inside 22 months ago, right? And changed your MO. And then after a couple months, it shifted a little, a couple months, it shifts a little, a couple months, it shifts back, and so we have this whole new appreciation for change, I think, that's different in the world today. And that's
Well, maybe
okay,
more
right?
accepting of it, more accepting that it's
Absolutely.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And the rate in which it changes, like the pace, like things. change.
Well, it changes
And then
expectations too,
we
because like
adopt them.
you as Bill Cole, you go out and you measure a roof, and you're like, all right, it's going to take 1,000 widgets, and I've done this roof for 30 years. My company's done it for 100 years. I can have this roof on for you March 15th. We'll have it done by April 15th. It's done. It's over, and sort of forever it sort of ran that way within a day or two, or somebody's pissed off, or you had an issue on the job or something that took it a couple days later, early, or whatever. But now, like, there is no expectation anymore of anything, right? Like when you order something on the internet, my wife ordered a refrigerator and a stove. We're like, might get it, might not get it. In stock, might be in stock, might not be in stock. Who knows, right? I think we, especially with the U.S. mail, we have
Well, I
a
feel like
different level of expectation of when we send it out, when we're going to get it, when the phone call is going to get returned, when actual delivery is going to happen with almost anything at this point.
and I feel like that's almost a return to where we were when we started ordering off of Amazon. Like I feel like there was a
Chaos.
lot of well, there was just angst around the e-commerce side of it. And like, I hope this shows up. I hope I don't get, my money taken.
The word
And then
logistics didn't exist then, right?
yeah, and then we're just like, okay, 2 clicks and 24 hours later, there's a box of crayons at my front door,
And
like
why was
whatever
my
you want.
crayons in the Hawaii airport yesterday and went through Alaska to get to me? Why,
Right.
why did that happen?
So that changed, and everyone, like whether we mean it or we logically think it, we expect everything tomorrow. And I think people are intelligent enough to realize that like buying a roof is not ordering a book on Amazon. But at the same time, our internal clock says that it's kind of different. Like I've decided I want it. I push 4 buttons and I get it in some reasonable period of time. And then even when we had reasonable times, now that has completely eroded. We don't know when product is coming. We don't know what product will show up. And on top of it, when we go to do it, we don't know who will have COVID and who won't, and who can be out there to do it. So
Or more
it's
than that, we
pretty fun.
trust things and we click a button and there's no 800 number to call to get any help when it doesn't arrive, right? Like
Sure.
I went on SeatGeek to buy my tickets for Tootsie back at Christmas time. My wife and I went down and I bought my tickets. They never came. I mean, they let me in, and I'm going to have Ron Legler on this week to thank him for letting me in on Baltimore Positive this week. The gals at the office there at the Hippodrome felt bad for me and my wife all gussied up on a Thursday night to, see Tootsie fly, and they let us in. But, customer service, right? That's sort of the first thing that's gone in our culture, customer service.
There is a weird dynamic occurring where like everyone's been coached to have patience. They recognize that things are all screwed up. But the like deep-seated behind the front anger in people, like it doesn't take much for that to just that switch to flip and for the anger to come out.
Everybody's a Karen.
Yeah, well, I'm not
imagine this.
I'm not a big fan of
Imagine
the
being
Karen
a
concept,
jagoff that
but
went on a cruise that got a dirty cruise and you got stuck in wherever, or you get stuck in Mexico, or you're flying anywhere right now and you spike a positive test and you get stuck somewhere, or the airline can't get you home because all the flight attendants have COVID, right? Like I remember reading, and I'm a little bit of a Nostradamus appreciator, that
sure.
when someone writes something in December that predicts what life is going to be like in January, and they're right, and and people were outraged. There's a woman, and I can give you her name, and I could probably go onto my Twitter right now. She was a doctor who was predicting empty shelves in January, and school shut down because school bus drivers wouldn't be able to drive, teachers were going to get COVID, parents were going to get COVID, that she predicted 4 weeks ago because she's a doctor. I think she's in Montgomery County. She's in Maryland, female doctor. And she's just a regular, I looked her up on LinkedIn. She's got 400 links. I mean, she's not like, but she had a famous tweet that was very well shared about 3 weeks ago that said you really should stock up on dry goods and stuff because there's going to be a slowdown in January and February. There is. I'm a doctor. I've seen people come into the hospitals. The hospitals are filling up. You may think you're going to school and your teachers union and your parents and all. You're not going to school in January, February. Like she wrote this December 15th, maybe December 20th, right before Christmas. And I remember reading, everybody gang tackled her online. Doomsdayer and all that. I look up now, every thread I see is showing me a supermarket, not Wise yet, but supermarkets with empty shelves and stuff, because this supply chain thing, the thing that's happened to your industry, the thing that's happening to any industry where humans are involved, because we're all human and we're the way things happen, that the human part of the logistics chain and those hours and the things that make the bacon and the things that deliver the bread and the things that get the toilet paper here, all of that right now is still very much in disarray. And they'll blame Biden on it, I'm sure. I mean, it'll be Biden's fault, Pelosi's fault. I get all that, but when it's predictive, I take special interest in people who, I don't want to say they're futurists, because we talked about that a little bit last week, but somebody that can see around the corner a little bit reliably. I know people can't on Nate Silver, and, Moeller runs to all these pollsters like they're, Kreskin, and they're not at all. I don't believe in the science of that, and I'll tell Malia Cromer that, and I'll probably tell Gonzalez that this week on the show. But when people see things in science, I mean, I see Fauci getting taken apart this week by this moron in Kentucky, and I'm thinking we're just at a different place where we're like babies. Like when mama disappears from the room, she's dead, she's gone. I cry until she comes back. We have this. What's happening now is the reality, and what the real reality is preparing for what's happening next. That's how the world gets better.
Well, I think there's definitely, I've had a couple conversations lately with some, smart people, or at least I think they're smart, around, like, I don't know, if you like to play economics at all or whatever, everything's kind of like a chart. So you start throwing things on a chart to kind of understand what ultimately the outcome is. And this idea of the number of workers who have left the workforce, right? So all the baby boomers were going to retire. This pandemic accelerated a ton of them. The low-paying jobs have become unattractive, right? Or high-skilled jobs are untransferable to people who are leaving other jobs, right, that are no longer needed. So we have a real chaos. We keep using that word, but
Crossroads is what I would call it. It is a defining time, is what I would say.
And then you kind of layer on the increase in wages, and then you layer on like inflation,
the plague,
right? Well, yeah, the plague.
The medical cost of this plague, we have not. The man hours, the business hours, the doctor hours, the actual medical expense, the amount of money Pfizer's making on shooting me up last Friday. By the way, I'm boosted. Go get yours unless you're an idiot.
You know what I heard? I heard you can walk into Walmart and they will jab you. Somebody else told me they were in Nordstrom's, and
well, they're trying to get people vaccinated in this country.
I know. No, these are just cool. These are cool little wrinkles. Like I didn't really think you could just. I mean, Walmart.
My dear friend Pepper Mintz, and yes, that's her real name. Her real name is Pepper Mintz. Yes, at Northern Pharmacy. She's a rock and roller. You love Pepper Mintz. I'm gonna have so Pepper hits me 2 weeks ago because I said I need my shot. And she said, we're going to be giving shots on the 11th, or not the 11th, the 9th, it was Saturday, whatever that day, Saturday, at the farmer's market in Fells Point. So you could just walk up to the farmer's market in Fells Point. Now the big thing is getting COVID tested, right? Getting some test strips in your house that when you start to get sick, you test yourself to make sure that you have COVID or don't have COVID. That's really the biggest issue that we have as far as a society right now in the dead of winter, which is me not being tested using the Donald Trump method of there is no testing. So how could I be sick? If I don't test myself and I don't test positive, I'm not positive, so I can go out. That's also, I guess, the Aaron Rodgers way of doing things and whoever else. But I would think one of the problems we really have here are people walking around sick, getting other people sick. And now we have millions of people running around. I mean, I don't even know what to call it now when up and down my Facebook, everybody's sick, right? Everybody has it,
Oh,
like your family,
yeah,
all of
yeah.
every one of my partners, sponsors has somebody in their family. I think my wife and I and my kid and his wife are the only 4 people I know that we're still clean. And I don't know whether we're fighting a losing battle.
Right. No, I mean, everybody has it. There's no doubt. The testing is weird. There's lots of stuff on that too, in terms of like, it's really not the testing part, Ness. It's the recognition. Like, I don't really care if you test yourself. I don't care if you get tested. But if you are uncertain as to whether you are well or not, then you got to pull back. You got to pull back. Put your mask on and don't go around other people, right? Like you can do that in the absence of testing. It would be great if we could all just walk around with Q-tips up our nose that turned
Remember
red
when
or
that was
blue.
just a courtesy where
You
you were
know,
all
like,
snotty and cold and somebody would come up to hug you and say, no, back up.
right,
I don't want to get you
right.
sick. How many times have you
Yeah,
said, I don't want to get you sick? How many times have you
sure,
heard that in your life? I don't want to get you
sure.
sick. And now all of a sudden it's political. I'll do whatever I want. It's freedom. And
Well, there's not enough consistency around the language of like, and I hate saying this because it gets construed, but like, should we all be getting this version right now? like if we're all gonna get it, is this the one you want? Because it's much milder, especially for the vaccinated. And all of a sudden we get that immune system built up, you know what I mean? And we get these natural immunities from.
I literally could have it, not know it, and have
I
had it at any
understand
point
that.
the
That's
last
what I'm
8
saying.
weeks.
So,
Yeah.
but like, can somebody help us with that concept? And that's really hard for the medical people to talk about because that undermines the people who are on the fence about getting vaccinated. Although I'm not sure anybody's on the fence anymore. I think they're either on one side or the other at this point. Although you'd be surprised. There are people who,
Well,
the
when
more
people start
times,
dying around them, then they all want the shot all of a sudden, right?
well, the more times that people are on media talking about, hey, we've got 87 COVID patients in our hospital. 24 of them are in ICU or on, critical care, whatever units.
And they're all
And all
unvaccinated.
24 of them are unvaccinated. Right, right. All 24 of the people who have severe complications, conditions related to this are unvaccinated.
Listen, these people that don't want to take this shot, and these people that I've argued with, last week there was and the sad part is these aren't strangers. These are people I've known my whole life, right? There was I'll call her a young lady because she's probably 49 or 50, a couple years younger than me. She was amongst a group of girls that I chased back in the days in the 20s. I've never chased her, but chased her girlfriend, never caught her, like that, right? So Facebook, we were still friends. She lives up on the farm up in Harford County and voting for Glassman. And, I don't think she quite has the Confederate flag out on the front of her thing, but she certainly has a red hat. So anti-vaxxer comes on my thread and, spewing, urinating her nonsense, and really did what I expected. I didn't get a shot and I'm fine. Everything's worked out great for me. And she made me capital M and E. And I don't fight with people on the internet, Billy. I think you know this. It's just like it would be an all-day job, right? Like my buddy Mark Miller from Blondell Miller Show, he's like, "Hey, you're on the radio. You must like fight with people." I'm like, completely not what I do. Like I haven't been in one argument in other than with my wife and my cat. And I
I
can't think
like
the
to
last
I
time I
like to
had an
pick
argument with
fights
you.
with you. I like to pick fights with you.
These are debates, not arguments. So I wrote back and I'm like, I know you're fine, but if today you cut a tendon cutting a potato in your kitchen and you try to get down the upper Chesapeake
Yeah.
and you can't get in because there's no room in the hospital and you're bleeding outside, or you get leukemia tomorrow, or your husband has a heart attack tomorrow morning, or your kid breaks their finger in a basketball game Monday and then goes plays soccer on Saturday and lacrosse on Sunday, and mom's got to bring it in on Monday because the finger's hanging sideways. Not that anything like that would ever happen in the Cole household, but
Well,
I tried to
you don't go
explain
to
this
the
to
ER
her,
for that.
and
Just for
then
the
there's
record.
crickets because really what we've asked for, and this friggin' moron, Rand Paul, calling down a scientist, Billy, what you just displayed is what I've done as a reporter for years, right? Which is who, what, where, why, when, how, are we sure? Prove it to me, right?
Right.
Prove it to me is everybody in the hospital that's dying is unvaccinated. Everybody in ICU is unvaccinated. That's anecdotal to somebody that's 2 years into a plague who listened to a guy that said take bleach or take horse drugs or like whatever, drinking their urine denial. I would say this, that the evidence should be when Anthony Fauci's been doing infectious disease all of his life and he's 70 years old and 2 years ago steps up and says, this is a plague and this is an N95 mask and this is how we put it on and this is why they're freaking out in China and everybody's in a white suit throwing people in the meat wagons and keeping each other away because this is like a real plague. The fact that 2 years later, after all we've been through, whether we believe it or don't believe it, they don't believe these people are dying of COVID. There are people that don't believe those were Trump people who ran up the Capitol and hung off it like a bunch of monkeys. They were Bernie Sanders supporters. I mean, I think you can believe any bullshit you put your mind to once you start believing bullshit. And when you're so selfish about it and you don't have the ability to understand science or understand a pathogen that you cannot see that can kill you and has killed neighbors and friends of yours and has been killing people here for 2 years, that we're still dragging the doctors in and somehow putting sound bites together for fake news entities supporting insurrection and fake election results and anything else on that side of the table has now been put onto, well, you're just making them numbers up. Ain't no numbers like that. Leo didn't die from COVID. Leo died because he's old and fat. He just happened to get sick and he died. But ain't
Which,
no COVID.
which is fine,
Yeah.
right? So okay, so in the absence of common sense stick that we can just walk around whacking people with because we don't have one of them.
All you can do is give evidence, though, right?
Well, right.
I mean,
So
at
here's
that point,
my-
if you're not listening to doctors, you're saying you know more than them, and I don't know what
here's
to say to you at
right.
that point.
Well, the doctors are totally like at their wits' end. Like, how can, you know, for however long we've all lived on, you know, in our lives, you show up at the doctor tells you what to do to get better, and you're like, yes, sir, I'll jump right on it. And now all of a sudden we've all decided to say, wait a second, you want me to do what? It's
That
like,
sounds
come
too
on.
inconvenient.
Yeah,
That sounds far-fetched. A plague? We haven't had a
So
plague around here since like polio, and I think my parents were making that up. That wasn't real.
so for the people who, well, and I saw like a George Carlin bit that somebody was circulating
Speaking of
where,
futurists,
right, where he really does he does a great job of showing us why this is so hard for us to grapple with, right? Because he comes from that camp of like, what in the hell's wrong with everybody now? You know, and he uses colorful language and all that, but like hand sanitizers, wash your hands, blah, 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 blah. We're all afraid of germs. When I grew up, we swam in this, whatever, I can't remember where, but in New York, and it was raw sewage. There wasn't no polio when I was around because we swam in raw sewage. Like we had such resistance to bacteria that there was nothing. And it's like, oh my gosh, right. This is what we're up against. Like,
people that
wait a
think they know more about science than
right.
scientists.
Hold on. You're right. We've made no modern scientific advances in your lifetime, George. Like
Whatever was in
any better.
Encyclopedia Britannica in 1976, we're still reading. Get the World Book out. Whatever it says about the population of Bangladesh is what it still is, you know?
There's no way that washing your hands on a regular basis is good for you. Like, that's just malarkey. That's just baloney. Like, come on, man. Really? Give me a break. You're washing your hands. But look,
My father would have, like, if he lived long enough, my father would be 102 now, right? But my father believed all sorts of crazy bullshit. You know what I mean? Like hocus pocus stuff that probably started with his, religious beliefs where things that feel far-fetched, believable, and then anything after that becomes the Wizard of Oz. You know, anything,
right.
like My father definitely believed you could wash your hands too much. Like I
Sure.
know, for you to say that, I
Sure.
I know my father believed that to be a fact
Right.
because he was from
Right.
Scranton, Pennsylvania in 1919. Probably believed that, putting earwax on your pee would make it stop stinging, and like, pee on that cut and that'll
Right.
fix it,
Right.
and
Right. Right.
right, spit on that,
But
have the
look,
dog lick your
this is
wound, all that weird stuff, right?
here's the story that I think can help motivate some people to improve behaviors. Whatever the emergency that happens in your life that requires you to need a place so properly identified called the emergency room, right? At that point in time, the last thing you want to be dealing with is, well, it's a 7-hour wait because the building is full. Man, is this really an emergency? Like, that's not the society we're trying to build, right? The society we're trying to build is, hey, if you're not sure, if you have a problem, we have these places you can go where these experts help diagnose how big of a problem it is. And when we no longer have that option, we have fundamentally failed as a society. Because I mean,
Because
look,
there's a fire and the fire truck doesn't come.
you made a joke about the dangling finger, knowing that that was basically a true story. But I am clearly not qualified to diagnose whether my poor daughter's finger is broken or not. So we tape it up and we play on because I've got a little
Do you
George
feel like a
Carlin in
bad
me.
parent? Because you are.
I've got your father in me, right? I've got that wash your hands too many times. I got some of that taught into me. So we tape it up and we play on because that's what I did. And look, my fingers are crooked, but they work. Uh, and I was wrong because I'm not qualified, right? Like I'm not qualified.
If
Thank
I need
God
a
it was
roof, I'll call you right away, though, right?
exactly right.
But if I
Thank
need air
God it was
conditioning,
just
you're
a
probably not the
finger.
guy. I probably got to call Martin Knott for that, right?
Right. Thank God it was just a finger. And I do have to give a plug. I mean, Towson Orthopedic, man, they are just awesome. They know
Yeah, the
how to do
doctors are
this.
awesome for the most part.
They know
Even the
how to
people
do
at
it,
Lightbridge,
man.
I'm upset about my back. They're still awesome. I mean, they're
Right.
trying hard.
So so whatever the reasons are, the combination of flu and COVID and like, I don't know, man. Like there's a trade-off. So even if you believe, let's just say you believe that the vaccine is bad for you, right? Like I can't I can't negotiate with people who think the vaccine represents some sort of political ideology. That doesn't make any sense. Like we can't do that. But for those people who are genuinely afraid that it wasn't tested enough, they rushed it, I don't trust them. They're just trying to make money. Like, don't put that poison in me. Just for those people. What can we, and this is a legitimate question, but like, what can we compare that to where we all elected to do something that was potentially dangerous for the better good?
Opening
Like,
highways, people get killed. So
right, there you
animals.
go. Driving 55 miles an hour, right? Like, we've all agreed to do that.
Well, everybody knows somebody afraid of flying. Doesn't make
Yeah.
flying unsafe, right? But we all get on planes.
I mean, we've lost our spirit of like I always
Togetherness.
well, no, yeah, that, but besides that, like I always wonder who the people are that go for the tests, right? Like, hey, we've got this new drug. Would you like to come try this out? Like, I always wonder, especially the kids. Like, who's
Well,
taking their
there's a
kids in,
whole group of
you know?
polio children still out there that are like, our parents' age, who stepped up and were the early the pioneers, polio
Right.
pioneer. It might even that be a name, polio pioneers, if I'm
I
not
mean,
mistaken.
courage. Um,
How about the guy that got in a little thing and like said, "There's the moon. I'm going to go walk on it." How about that guy?
Yeah.
That's who we are as people, right? Like that's what
Well, we
John Kennedy
lost
was
that.
about. That's what we're supposed to be. Now we're about denying science and bickering and buying a lot of guns. Bill Cole is here. He is Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. Incidentally, I just last thing you mentioned about your daughter. And you mentioned about showing up at the hospital and it being full, and my little life lesson for my girl Peggy up in Bel Air. Um, my wife, we literally woke up this morning right before we did this segment, and her doctor's appointment got canceled. It's a dermatology appointment. It's just like an appointment. So it's not like she has skin cancer or anything like that. But she's like, same exact thing you said to me. So both of you said it to me. You're the only two people I've talked to today. She said, in society, we want early detection. We want to get in. We want to know all this stuff. And now, like, I can't even get in to get an appointment to get early detection. So, like, to your point, what are we doing? I mean, what are we
Right.
doing to our doctors? That's my message. Isn't your politics or Donald Trump or voting suppression or storming the Capitol and having no consequence. Like that's bad enough. But the issue right now is the hospitals are full. The doctors are screaming uncle, the nurses are screaming uncle, and we're flaming in this pandemic, like flaming in it. And we have people like you pissed off that your kid can't go to school today, even though there's no teachers there and there's no bus drivers there and the principal can't make it in. We probably shouldn't be there. Like, so this debate is really about fatigue, Bill. It's not about what's right or
Mm.
wrong. It goes back to the Carl Sagan thing. It goes back to what feels good.
My
What makes me feel good? It makes me feel
my
good to yell
kids
at
are
Anthony.
going to school. My kids are going to school. There are some entrepreneurial, that might not be the right word, but principals who, because the teacher's positive, she's at home zooming into the classroom where the kids that are all negative are in school. There's some
Oh,
good stuff
listen, man, I
going on,
hear
right?
everything you're telling me about kids having to be together. Like in the beginning of this thing, the first month, 2 years ago, like it sucked, it was mopey, it was whatever, but we'll get them back. There's been nothing normal for any of these kids in 23 months. And you're the one with kids, so you're the one to tell me
Oh,
about I'd like to think that in America, if you're the one taping your finger up and go playing, that we would be a better society because of this. Because certainly we got into the softer land, and because I did some hiring last decade. I was blown away at the last generation, the kids that are in their 30s now, how quite frankly useless they were to me from a business standpoint because of work ethic and just, hey, that's trash on the floor, can you pick that up, because that's what we do. We don't like all of that from a hiring perspective. But these kids now was latchkey kids were the kids after us, right? Then there was the do nothing kids, millennial, and now there's your kids, which are plague kids. And I would like to think that if you survive this, and that's a big if with mental health and getting through all this, and we're the end of all this and staying on track for grades and goals and future and dreams and all of that stuff, that if we survive this, this will be the best generation of people ever, in the way that the people that grew up in the middle of World War II and the Cold War made America something that we liked 30 years ago.
I I don't know if they'll be the greatest. I appreciate the sentiment, right? Like that's a great thing to hope for. But I
Your
can
daughter's going to
one.
say, remember the time Dad taped my hand up and said, go play soccer? It
I,
worked out
I
okay. My hand looks like Baldinger, but like it's all right, you know?
I know for a fact they will be different, right? I know uh my kids notice when people don't have masks on. My kids notice people on television when they don't have masks on. Like, and I'm like, no, this was back before that or whatever. They are like, they probably won't hug as much. Like, there's definitely some
Oh man, intimacy
deep-seated
issues, right?
change
We
occurring.
all
There's
had awkward
definitely some
issues on
deep-seated,
intimacy, right?
yeah, it's definitely going to change. I Oh man, I lost it. There was something
No, you were
else
talking
about
about
that.
kids and
Oh,
resiliency.
well, yeah, but before that, one of the most frustrating things right now is forget what, again, take the what you believe about the pandemic out of it. Believe the fact that the hospital administrator is telling you that it's full, right? Like drive over there and look if you have to, for God's sakes, right? If the hospital's full, we're not doing something right. And the world does not want to accept that they have any role in fixing that right now. We stopped that. Like there
Because
are
we have rugged independence here.
there are conventions that are occurring that they are not canceling. Like, really? Like, what is going to happen at that convention that
Commerce.
like
Commerce.
rivals the fact that the hospitals are full? And again, I'm trying to figure out if this is when we're all supposed to catch it, right? Because this is a mild version, and let's just, you're jealous. Oh man, Bob's family got it, and they were all kind of okay. Oh man, like lucky. Like now they're on the other side. That's
But are
truly
they?
bizarre,
But are they?
right?
You can get it
I
again.
know. Yes, I know.
That was the
That's
weird part in
bizarre.
the beginning, because my wife and I thought we got it when we got back from this time 2 years ago. My wife was in the emergency room at Hopkins. The morning
Yeah.
after we lost to the Titans, she didn't go to that game. She was so sick. So it was literally this week 2 years ago. I was
Right.
scratchy and
Yeah.
I got over it, moved on. My wife had blisters in her eardrums that they never
Oof.
defined even what it was. So we're pretty sure she probably had it, quite frankly. But then we thought, well, we're cool. We got antibodies because I'm watching
Right.
Fox News. Steve Bannon told me I got antibodies, and he's a doctor of chaos.
I don't know.
But then,
But
I mean,
but that's the hard part is there have been times in the last 22 months where we've gotten everybody at least close enough together, right, that we were able to move numbers and cause consequence, right?
that even
Not
if you're
every
pissed at Brandon Scott for shutting everything down, at least the hospitals didn't get overwhelmed, right?
Right. Not everybody stayed home. Not everybody wore a mask. Not everybody got vaccinated. But we've moved through places where we at least came together enough. I don't know that there's any activity that would, quelch the Omicron because it seems so contagious, right? So fine, if it's going to burn out in the next 2 weeks, which is probably the best stories you can hear right now, is like, oh yeah, we're almost a peak and then it burns out. The spring's going to be phenomenal. That's what everybody's telling everybody. Like they said, last year was the dark winter. This might be the dark
That's
winter.
what I'm telling the Maryland Lottery and the Maryland Crab Cake Tour and sponsors like Cole Roofing,
right,
like you,
right. It's going to be phenomenal.
In April, we'll have crab cakes, double crab cakes.
Right. But if we don't take any action, I'm just telling you, and it's not right for me to tell personal stories that, are, I just don't feel comfortable. I am telling you that the levels of the hospitals are causing people to die that otherwise would not die. And if that, as like a human being in the 21st century in the United States, doesn't fundamentally offend you, like then there's no hope for us, right? Like people are not supposed to die just because we can't get our experts to them. That's wrong.
Well, I think through all of this, trying to appeal to our better angels and to our best selves, and wherever your religion or godliness or feelings would be about dealing with other people, that we all are in it together. The pathogen would say that, and we go visit the dinosaurs and we see what happens when they don't stick together. Bill Cole is here. We're sticking together. He's putting roofs together whenever he can get the parts. He can take care of your roof. Certainly can put some solar up there for you as well. Give your elevator speech, Billy, before I let you go, because football season's over and we're going to talk about baseball next week, you and me.
So that's funny. I'll probably miss that one, but
see you in February.
Right. 100 plus years of doing commercial roofs in Baltimore. Doesn't really matter what it is, small fixes, large replacements. And then, the solar thing, Ness, again, we're very much still in the education phase. And I really do encourage people, and I really do mean this. Like we like to educate. We enjoy that part of the business. Just let us show you what it looks like.
What would it mean if every roof in Baltimore had a solar panel of some kind? Maybe not your kind, but cheaper kind, more expensive kind, elaborate, that had we started to build roofs in 1976 the way Jimmy Carter wanted to, before Reagan ripped it all apart, that if every home the last 50 years was solar roof, and that doesn't mean rooftops in Highland Town or wherever, but if we would have gone totally solar with roofing, and I guess the impediment was that the people that sold shingles, right? Like literally, right?
No, I mean, the impediment at that point was that it was still too expensive, right? But
if the government gets involved, you can make it cheap.
Yeah, but there's at least half there's at least half the country who.
That's like electric cars, all the things we've whiffed on here.
Yeah. There's like half the country who doesn't think the government should participate. So.
But that doesn't stop the government from participating in coal or anything else, gas, buying corn, soybean, whatever. I mean, I hear all of that. I'm just saying, like, what would happen to energy, the lights behind me in this city, if we had moved to solar? That would have put BG&E out of business, right? Like that is the unintended consequences of it. Roofing materials would be different. Like I'm trying to get
yes,
it would
be really crazy. It would be really crazy because the utilities are a monopoly that are managed by local governments.
Fair enough.
So it'd be pretty crazy. But the point is, forget
so
that.
People thought progress here on this particular issue.
Of course. Yes. Of course. It's similar to the electric car. What I would tell you is it has a fundamentally significant impact on the individual person's balance sheet, right? So whether it's your home or your building, this impacts you. Like there's lots of great social good, high level, great stuff that happens. But the idea that you can save a bunch of money, I don't know, you should find that out.
There you go. Solar and regular roofing and commercial roofing, and doing it with great expertise and sometimes even a smile. Bill Cole and Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. We talk a lot about them around here. Hey, I appreciate you, man. You can get on your way now, be done with me, and you're gonna watch football this weekend, right? I mean, you're not. We're all watching, right?
Football's over, right?
No,
Isn't it over? I thought it ended last weekend.
They still play. Not if you're an Eagles fan.
Oh, okay.
Or Steelers fan.
I don't know. I'm gonna tune in. Maybe I'm watching through some snowflakes. I don't know. It's a little hard to tell.
Let's go Bengals. That feels
be on the lookout.
That's
really weird.
I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. Still watching football, still waiting on baseball, and still waiting for the thaw in the spring. We are BaltimorePositive.com.